Hey guys, before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that we are still on our 2-week hiatus. We will have a brand new episode out for you next week that we know you will love. Until then, we really hope you enjoy the mega episode of our deep dive into the Sodder family. We see the love you have shown to the Hopkinsville Goblins mega episode, and we hear you. We will try to more of these longer videos in the future. For now, sit back, relax, and get ready to get weird.
George Sodder, born Giorgio Soddu in Sardinia, Italy, immigrated to the U.S. as a teenager in 1908 and eventually settled in Fayetteville, West Virginia. He and his wife Jenny, an Italian-American woman from a local immigrant family, had 10 children between 1923 and 1943 and became a respected middle-class family in their Appalachian community. George prospered in his trucking business, but he was outspoken and held strong opinions, notably fierce criticism of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, which sometimes alienated fellow Italian immigrants. Tensions arose, and irate life insurance salesman, angered by George's anti-Mussolini remarks, warned him in October 1945 that his house would go up in smoke and his children would be destroyed as payback for George's political comments. Around the same time, another stranger, inspecting the Sodder home, pointed to a pair of fuse boxes and said this is going to cause a fire someday, which puzzled George since he had recently had the wiring checked and approved by the power company. The family's older sons also noticed a suspicious car parked along the road near their house in the weeks before Christmas 1945. Its occupants watching the younger children as they returned from school. These incidents, though not fully understood at the time, would later seem like ominous warnings. By December 1945, the Sodder household included George, Jenny, and 9 of their 10 children. Their second oldest son, Joseph, was away in the Army during World War II. The family lived in a 2-story timber frame house about 2 miles outside Fayetteville. As Christmas approached, the Sodder children were excited for the holidays. On Christmas Eve 1945, the family celebrated together at home, unaware that their lives were about to be shattered by a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. And with that, welcome back, you fucking lot lizards. It's another episode of the Lots Full podcast with your co-hosts, Dakota and Arkansas Dave.
What's going on, guys?
Dave, we're doing this one a little odd time. I probably should have done one of the paranormal episodes at about this time instead of when we normally record.
Yeah.
So one of the guys that listens to us at the place I pick up from, he was listening to it while he was working from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. last night. And I was in there when he was leaving. And I asked him, I said, so what'd you think? He only got through the first episode, and he was like, man, I kept dozing off, and then the intercom would go off, and it would scare the fuck out of me, and then I'd open my eyes, and all I'd hear is y'all talking about floating aliens and glowing blood.
So we're boring, is what I just got told.
Well, you work 12 hours overnight like that, sitting in an office.
I mean, I hadn't worked 12 hours overnight, but I've worked from 3 to 11 in a
Well,
prison.
yeah. Yeah, but that's you can get up and move around and shit. Here, he has to sit at a computer screen,
What the fuck is he doing at a computer screen?
signing trucks in and printing out paperwork and stuff like that.
Oh,
The scale house.
I see.
So
I see.
normally that's why he listens to us. Is keeps him company.
Mm. Well, we're trying to make
And
another episode here.
it also doesn't help that he just had a newborn baby. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember those days.
yeah.
That's what caused this finger right here to be flat. Oh, no, sorry. Wrong finger.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard the story of the Sodder family?
No, never heard it.
So I figured we would try something new. Well, not really new, but a little bit different. This has no paranormal aspects to it. It's just a really, really odd, unsolved disappearance. Um, with a lot of the tensions nowadays, I think it fits. So I think it's worth revisiting.
Right.
But it's just really interesting. There's a lot of really odd occurrences that happen. Like I said in the cold open, you've got the life insurance salesman that's threatening that their house is going to be burned and their kids are going to die,
Yeah.
and then you've got the random stranger telling them, "Hey, that pair of fuse boxes is going to start a fire one day," after they had already gotten the house inspected.
Yeah.
Then
Makes you
you got the
wonder.
strange car.
Yeah. Makes you wonder whoever disappeared, because I don't know who disappeared yet. Maybe they were a spy or something.
Yeah, well, it gets odder than just being in a fire. So,
Oh, well. If you're wondering what I'm
like,
doing, I'm trying to cover up my toes real quick.
I'll tell you right now, without getting too far into my theories,
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe anybody perished in the fire.
Okay. Well,
So, do with that information what you will, but I do not believe anybody perished in the fire.
I guess we'll fucking get to it, won't we?
Yeah. You want to go ahead and get into it?
Let's get into it, because I need to get this done so I can get my ass to work.
All right. So, Christmas Eve 1945, around 10 o'clock p.m. The Sodder family's Christmas Eve was joyful. The oldest daughter, 19-year-old Marion, had brought home surprise toys for her three younger sisters, Martha, 12, Jenny, 8, and Betty, 5, as gifts from her job at the dime store. The excited younger children begged to stay up past their usual bedtime to play with the new toys. Jenny Sodder agreed as long as two of her older boys, Maurice, 14, and Louis, 9, took care of their evening chores, which was like feeding the chickens and cows. George Sodder and his two oldest sons, John, 22, and George Jr., 16, were already exhausted from work and went to sleep earlier. Jenny stayed up until about 10 p.m. and then took the youngest child, two-year-old Sylvia, upstairs to bed. Before retiring, she reminded the older children who were still up to finish the chores and lock up the house. Everything seemed normal as Christmas Eve drew to a close. In the early minutes of Christmas Day 1945, the first sign of trouble occurred. At around 12:30 a.m., the telephone rang, waking up Jenny Sodder from sleep. She went downstairs to answer the phone. On the line was a woman whose voice Jenny did not recognize. The caller asked for a person who did not live there, and Jenny could hear background noise of laughter and glasses clinking as if a party was in progress. When Jenny replied that the caller had the wrong number, the woman let out a weird laugh before hanging up. Puzzled, Jenny noted the late hour and an odd prank call, but she shrugged it off as a wrong number. Before returning to bed, Jenny noticed something else amiss. The downstairs lights were still on, the curtains were open, and the front door was unlocked, things her children normally tended to before bed. Marion was asleep on the living room sofa, so Jenny assumed the other kids who had stayed up late had gone to the attic where they slept without doing their usual nighttime tasks. Jenny quietly turned off the lights, drew the curtains, locked the door, and went back up to bed. The household fell silent again after the strange midnight call.
Okay, I'm sitting there just kind of rolling back over what you said. It sounds like a prank call to me, but it also sounds like somebody lives there. But remember when I said spy?
Yeah.
Known as a different name.
I have a note here. Police later traced that phone call to a woman who confirmed it was indeed a misdialed wrong number, adding a bizarre but ultimately coincidental footnote to the night's events.
Okay.
Okay?
So a drunken prank call. Got it.
What it sounds like. About half an hour later, at roughly 1 a.m., Jenny was jolted awake again, this time by a sudden bang on the roof, followed by a rolling noise. It sounded as if something had hit the house and tumbled off. She held her breath and listened for any further sounds, but after the single thump and roll, there was silence. Thinking perhaps a large object, or maybe a dislodged piece of gutter, had fallen in the wind, Jenny eventually drifted back to sleep when everything remained quiet. Unbeknownst to her, this mysterious noise would later take on great significance. The family would later find a small, hard rubber object in the yard, leading George to suspect it was a type of pineapple bomb, which is an incendiary device, thrown onto the roof. But at 1 a.m., Jenny had no way of knowing this, and the night remained dark and still for just a few minutes more.
It was rubber?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think if you're going to throw it on the roof and it's sitting there year round?
It works a lot like a Molotov cocktail.
Yeah, but a Molotov cocktail's glass and it breaks. Rubber doesn't break.
So when you throw it, it hits, splashes some of the fuel on there, which then ignites, and it keeps igniting as it rolls.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Approximately 30 minutes later, around 1:30 a.m., Jenny woke for the third time, now to the smell of smoke. Realizing something was very wrong, she jumped out of bed. She found that an apparent fire had broken out in George's home office, a room on the first floor. Flames were visible around the fuse box and the telephone line connection in that room. Jenny immediately aroused George, yelling that the house was on fire. George in turn woke his elder sons, John and George Jr., whose bedrooms were on the second floor, and they shouted frantically for everyone to get out. Both parents and 4 of their children managed to escape the burning house. Marion, 19, who had been asleep on the sofa, Sylvia, 2, carried out by Jenny, John, 22, and George Jr., 16. These 4 siblings and the parents fled into the front yard, coughing from smoke and bewildered by the sudden blaze. As they regrouped outside, George realized with horror that 5 of the children were still unaccounted for. Maurice, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jenny, 8, and Betty, 5, had been sleeping in 2 upstairs attic rooms and had not emerged in the chaos. George and Jenny shouted up towards the attic, calling the children's names into the inferno, but no response came. The stairway to the second floor was already engulfed in flames, cutting off any direct rescue route upstairs. In a later statement, their son John said he tried to go up to the attic to alert his siblings, but was driven back by flames. In one interview, he claimed he actually reached the attic and searched, but he later changed his account to say he only called up the stairs without seeing. Within minutes, the Sodder family's home was becoming an inferno, and desperate measures were needed to save the 5 children trapped inside.
Damn.
The Sodder... Do what?
Nothing. I'm just listening.
It's heavy. It's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Sodders' attempts to rescue the missing children and to get help were met with one obstacle after another. First, they tried to call the fire department, but the house phone was dead. The line had gone silent, likely destroyed by the fire or cut. It was later discovered that the phone line had been cut by an unknown perpetrator, not burned by the fire. With no working phone, Marion ran through the night to a neighbor's house to call for help. She reached a neighbor and tried to phone the Fayetteville Fire Department, but no operator responded to connect the call. At the same time, a passing motorist on the road had seen the flames. The person stopped at a nearby tavern to call the fire department, only to find the tavern's phone would not reach an operator either. Precious minutes were slipping by. Finally, either the neighbor or the motorist succeeded in reaching the fire department by driving into town to find the fire chief in person. In those pre-911 days, Fayetteville's volunteer fire brigade had to be summoned by an antiquated phone tree system, which was one firefighter calling another, which greatly delayed the response. Meanwhile, outside the burning house, George Sodder was undertaking heroic but thwarted rescue efforts. Barefoot and frantic, George first broke a window back into the house, cutting a gash in his arm, hoping to reach her and reach the upstairs. He was immediately driven back by the smoke and flames that had engulfed the downstairs. George then ran to grab his ladder, which was always kept propped against the side of the house. The plan was to climb to the upstairs windows. Shockingly, the ladder was missing from its usual spot and nowhere to be found in the dark yard. The next day, that same ladder would be found ditched in a ravine 75 feet away from the Sodder home. Do what?
This is sound more and more intentional. Like somebody.
Suspicious. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, like you said, you had some weird happenings already. Then all of a sudden, the house goes up. Can't get a hold of the fire department. The ladder's not where it's supposed to be. Phone lines cut. This is an assassination attempt.
Yeah. That's the one aspect of it that everybody agrees on. Literally everybody that has looked into this case agrees this was an assassination attempt. Beyond that, nobody can agree.
Yeah.
Not giving up, George sprinted to his work trucks. He had 2 coal delivery trucks parked nearby. He hoped to drive a truck up to the house and climb on its roof to reach the upper windows. Both trucks had been working perfectly the day before, but now neither truck would start. Despite George's frantic attempts to crank the engines, the trucks had been mysteriously disabled, possibly tampered with. One theory was that the thief who cut the phone line might have also sabotaged the vehicles. As another resort, the family tried to scoop water from a rain barrel to douse the flames, but the winter cold had frozen the water solid. Every conceivable rescue plan was being defeated. No phone, no ladder, no vehicles, no water.
Yeah.
Within about 45 minutes of the fire's outbreak, the Sodder home was consumed. George, Jenny, and the other 4 children could only watch in anguish as the house collapsed into a heap of burning timbers around 2 a.m. In that short span, the 2-story house was reduced to a pile of ashes and charred rubble. 5 children had been in the upstairs bedroom, and the surviving family members could only assume the worst, that those 5 had tragically perished in the blaze. When no signs of the missing children appeared outside, George and Jenny were convinced that they had been trapped inside. They were grief-stricken and also baffled by the cascade of strange failures that prevented a rescue.
But here's something I don't understand. And you brought this up. You would think there'd be accounts of people screaming.
Possibly, or in the panic, nobody heard it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when you get an adrenaline jump or an adrenaline dump like that, you get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Your hearing goes away.
Well, not necessarily. Especially if you're calling out trying to listen.
Yeah, that's true.
So it kind of makes me think, like you said, that maybe nobody actually died in the fire.
Mm-hmm. Fayetteville's fire department was only about 2 miles away, but because it was a volunteer crew and it was the middle of the night on Christmas, the response was disastrously slow. Due to the wartime manpower shortage and the inefficient phone tree alert system, firefighters did not arrive until approximately 8 a.m. on Christmas morning, a full 7 hours after the fire had started. Fire Chief F.J. Morris later cited that he couldn't drive the fire truck and had to wait until someone who could drive was located. By the time the fire crew reached the Sodder property, there was little left to save. This house had burned itself out and was now a smoking pile of ash and embers. Family and neighbors had been up all night, helplessly standing vigil in the cold, and the 5 children were still missing. The firefighters conducted a brief and superficial search of the ruins. Notably, one of the firefighters on scene was Jenny Sodder's brother, who helped in the effort. The men searched the basement area, which was essentially all that remained of the house. They expected to find human remains of the 5 children, given that the fire had raged through the night. By 10 a.m., Chief Morris told the Sodders that no bones or bodies had been found in the ashes. This astonished the family. Even if the children had died in the fire, there should have been some skeletal remains. According to later accounts, the firefighter search was cursory at best, perhaps owing to the intense heat or the minimal manpower. And some witnesses claimed a few bone fragments or organ pieces were found, but quietly disposed of. Chief Morris, however, was confident no recognizable remains were present, and hypothesized that the blades had burned hot enough to completely cremate all 5 children's bodies. This explanation would soon be called into question by experts, but on Christmas Day 1945, it was the only answer authorities offered to the grieving Sodder family. I'm going to look
Sorry, I'm glitching out a little bit for whatever reason.
I'm looking something.
Well, here's the
In
thing.
order to cremate the body fully, the fire would have had to reach between 1400 and 1800 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which is possible in a house fire. But the question is, how long will that...
Fire typically burns 1000 to 2000 degrees. Specifically, typical temperatures can be between 1100 to 1600 degrees. So it is possible.
Yeah. I mean...
Do what?
I'm about to say, if you think about it, they're upstairs, okay? The house...
Heat rises.
Well, I mean, yeah, the heat's going to rise. What's going to happen is the house is going to collapse in on itself like this. And everything. So which means everything that was upstairs now goes to the middle as everything folds on top. So, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
But even in crematoriums, do you know how that happens? How they do? complete cremation.
Hmm.
They literally stick you in a furnace, cook you, okay? So there's nothing but ashes left, okay? But mostly there's bones left. And they take those bones and stick it through a grinder, grind the rest of you up,
Crush.
and then put you in the rest of your ashes.
Yeah.
Like, not to be, like,
No, these are topics that have to be had during an investigation into this topic, into
yeah,
this case. Um, so what I'm getting from that is that it would have had, like, you would have still found bone.
yeah. Unless it's a
By
long, sustained fire.
yeah, by mid morning on December 25th, the fire was out and nothing remained of the Sodder home but charred rubble. The fire department, having found no definitive remains, departed with the belief that the 5 missing children had died in the fire. Chief Morris suggested the lack of remains was due to the fire's extreme heat, claiming it must have incinerated the bodies completely. A state police inspector came to examine the scene that day and attributed the fire to a faulty wiring in the house, specifically in the area of George's office where Jenny had seen flames. George Sodder was advised by the fire chief to leave the site undisturbed for a more thorough investigation by state authorities. However, by December 29th, only 4 days had passed and no further investigation was in progress. George's anguish and frustration led him to bulldoze 5 feet of dirt over the ashes to create a makeshift memorial for his lost children. He could not bear the sight of the blackened ruin any longer. This burial of the site, done so quickly, unfortunately also buried any remaining evidence that might have still been in the debris. The coroner's office convened an inquest and by the next day officially ruled the fire an accident caused by malfunctioning wiring. In a chilling twist, one of the jurors on that coroner's inquest was the very same insurance salesman who had threatened George that his house would burn and his children would be destroyed in retribution for his anti-Mussolini stance. Despite this conflict of interest, the inquest findings stood. Death certificates for the 5 children were issued on December 30th, 1945, citing the causes of death as fire or suffocation. A funeral for the 5 was held on January 2nd, 1946, though George and Jenny were too grief-stricken to attend. Their surviving children went in their stead. Although the official conclusion was that the Sodder children had died in a tragic accidental fire, George and Jenny were not completely convinced. In the immediate aftermath, as the new year 1946 dawned, nagging doubts and puzzling anomalies, God, that's a hard word, began to consume them. The Sodder family's real quest for answers was only beginning.
Okay. So what's making them think that the kids might still be alive?
Well, trying to put myself in that position, if it was my kid, unless I see a body, I'm not going to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. I get that to a point.
Yeah. In the weeks and months after the fire, George and Jenny Sodder started to question the official story. They couldn't ignore the strange coincidences surrounding the fire. The hell just happened?
I leaned up.
No, my screen just went completely black.
Oh, yeah, you're completely froze on my end.
Hang on, it's coming back. What the hell?
You done broke it, Dakota.
What the hell?
Good?
Can you
Hello?
still not see me?
No, you're completely froze.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hang on, I'm gonna. It's Laotian midget porn. Get it right. So, apologize for that, folks. I don't know what the fuck just happened. That was weird. My whole screen went black, and then the camera wouldn't record.
Our FBI agents are on to us finally.
Took them long enough.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start this section over because I don't remember where I was.
Right.
In the weeks and months after the fire, George and Jenny Sodder started to question the official story. They couldn't ignore the strange circumstances surrounding the fire and the absence of remains. One of the first things Jenny pondered was why, if the fire was caused by an electrical issue, the household Christmas lights were still on in the early stages of the fire. Normally, an electrical fire would have knocked out power early, darkening the house. Witnesses did recall seeing the lights on while the house was burning, which seemed inconsistent with an electrical fire. Then there was the matter of the missing ladder, found the next day thrown down an embankment 75 feet away. How and why did it end up there if not deliberately moved? Next, a telephone repairman examined the overhead lines and informed the Sodders that their phone line had not been burned by the fire at all, but was cut. The cut was clean and high up the pole, suggesting it was cut by someone who had climbed 14 feet and reached out a few feet to slice it. This discovery aligned with a report from neighbors on the night of the fire that a man was seen stealing a block and tackle device from the Sodder property around the time the fire started. Authorities later identified and arrested this man, a local named Lonnie Johnson, for the theft. He admitted to stealing the block and tackle and also admitted cutting the phone line, claiming he thought it was a power line and saying he had simply wanted to disable any electricity while he stole, which was an odd excuse. Importantly, Johnson denied having anything to do with the fire itself, and no evidence ever directly linked him to starting it. Why a petty thief would climb a utility pole in the dead of night to cut a line at the Sodder house remains unexplained, leaving room for doubt about his whole role in the incident. Jenny Sodder also found it hard to accept that the 5 healthy children would be completely cremated in a house fire in just 45 minutes without leaving any bones. Seeking answers, she conducted her own experiments by burning animal bones to see if a fire would obliterate them. In each case, bones remained in the ashes. Furthermore, the family noticed that many household appliances were found in the rubble partially intact, and the tin roof of the house had collapsed in relatively recognizable pieces. This made Chief Morris's assertion that the fire had utterly destroyed all human bone seem implausible to the Sodders. Jenny even consulted an employee at a local crematorium who told her that even at 2,000 degrees for 2 hours, bones do not entirely burn to ash. The Sodder home had been destroyed in about half an hour to an hour, and likely did not burn nearly as hot as a crematorium. These facts bolstered the family's suspicion that something else happened to their missing children.
Okay, now I've got a theory.
Okay.
Children remains not found. Okay, ladders in a ravine, 75 foot away, whatever. What I'm thinking is a person climbed up a ladder through the window. Okay. There's the banging sound that you heard. Gets the children out of bed, goes down the ladder, and then sets the house ablaze.
I really like the way you're thinking. You know why I really like the way you're thinking?
That's what that's what your thought process is too, ain't it?
That's going along with my theory. Around 1947, after 2 fruitless years pleading with local authorities for more action, George and Jenny Sodder appealed to federal investigators. They wrote the FBI and personally received a reply from Director J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover expressed that while he would like to help, it was a local matter and outside the FBI's jurisdiction. However, he did say he would direct agents to assist if the local authorities invited federal help. The Sodders did persuade some FBI agents to look into the case, but the Fayetteville police and fire departments refused to give permission, firmly maintaining that the case was not a kidnapping and thus not in FBI purview. With official channels blocked, Sodders turned to private investigators and other means. George Sodder hired a private investigator named C.C. Tinsley to dig deeper into the mystery. Tinsley unearthed some disturbing information. He learned that the man who had threatened George, the life insurance salesman, served on the coroner's jury that ruled the fire an accident. An obvious conflict of interest that suggested a possible cover-up or at least a biased conclusion. Tinsley also heard a bizarre rumor about Fire Chief F.J. Morris. Supposedly, Morris confided to a local minister that he had found some kind of human remains in the ashes, a heart or some kind of internal organ, and had secretly buried it in a box at the scene. The motive for this secrecy, the story went, was that Morris hoped to quiet the Sodder suspicions by later discovering some remains and calling off the search. Upon hearing this, the Sodders persuaded Morris to show them where he'd buried this supposed discovery. Together, they dug up a box from the rubble, and inside was indeed a piece of something, a fresh beef liver, completely untouched by fire. It contained no human tissue at all. Confronted with this, Chief Morris admitted the truth. He had buried the liver himself in the rubble, hoping to placate the family by producing a false organ and convincing them the children had died in the fire. This shocking deception only strengthened the Sodders' resolve to keep investigating.
So, okay, here's the next theory.
Mm-hmm.
Children are kidnapped. Okay. And there's been some money greasing some wheels in town. Okay. I think the insurance guy. Hush, Millie. Hush. Sorry, dogs are yelling. Insurance guy's probably an Italian spy. Is what I'm getting, or he's at least got connections, because he's got a problem with Mr. Sodder talking shit about Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
So that's weird there. Kidnaps them. I'm assuming at this time we got planes, so it's either probably had fake identification made for these 5 kids and flown them back to Italy, where then they were brainwashed, I would assume, or shipped back.
Yeah.
But I can't prove either one.
Oh, it's going to get weirder, dude. It's going to get weirder.
You're completely glitched out.
I said it's going to get weirder.
Yeah.
I think we'll finish this section and then we'll call it for today.
Okay.
And if we can, Sunday we'll record part 2. If not, we'll figure it out. But
Yeah,
we'll get part 2 out next week. Okay?
Yeah. That's fine. We'll get it figured out.
Yeah. So, so after this section, we go into things that developed later. This is all stuff in the months and years right after the fire. Then
Mm-hmm.
everything after this happened years down the road.
Okay.
And that's where it gets fucking wild, dude.
All right.
So,
Well, hit me with the rest of your pet shark here.
yeah. In 1949, with the mystery still unsolved, the Sodder family undertook a new, more systematic search for the home or search at the home site. They brought in a pathologist from Washington, D.C., Dr. Oscar B. Hunter, to conduct a thorough excavation of the site. Through his digs, several artifacts were recovered from the earth that had been bulldozed over the basement. They found coins, a partially burned dictionary, and some shards of what looked like human vertebrae. These bone fragments were sent to the Smithsonian Institute for expert analysis, where they disappeared along with the giant bones. I added that last part.
Yeah.
The Smithsonian's report on the bones concluded that they were human lumbar vertebrae, all from the same person. Crucially, the age of that individual at death was estimated to be around 16 to 17 years old based on bone development. The older missing Sodder child, Maurice, was only 14, and while an advanced 14-year-old could possibly have bones skirting the lower edge of that range, the report noted it was not likely these were the bones of a 14-year-old. Moreover, these vertebrae showed no evidence of exposure to fire. The report pointed out that it was extremely strange that no other bones were found in a careful excavation, when one would expect a full skeleton's worth if 5 children had died in the blaze. The Smithsonian experts concluded the bones were most likely brought in with the fill dirt that George had used to backfill the basement, rather than belonging to any of the missing Sodder children. In other words, the excavation yielded no evidence at all that the 5 children died there. This independent scientific finding received some attention. It prompted state authorities in Charleston to hold 2 hearings on the case in the early 1950s. However, Governor Okie L. Patterson and the West Virginia State Police Superintendent ultimately told the Sodders the case was hopeless. In 1950, they officially closed the Sodder file and advised the family to drop the matter. Undeterred, the Sodders carried on with their own quest, turning to the public for help. And that's where we'll pick up next week. What you think so far, Dave?
Okay. So, sounds like to me we've got.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Good.
yeah, we're
I
good
started getting
now.
a phone call. We most definitely have a kidnapping. Is what it sounds like to me. There's somebody greasing the wheels of authorities in town. Okay. And with all the coincidences, as Gibb would say, there's never such thing as a coincidence. Um, you have the police chief that couldn't drive the fire truck, so I'm assuming he's drunk. He's probably drunk because, well, hey, I just helped kidnap a family. Two, nobody could get a hold of dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming at this time you had switchboards because we're in the 40s. Um, so there's that. Um, the police don't want to investigate, so that's telling me there's probably a cover up there. You have one guy that's an insurance person that has a problem with you talking shit about Mussolini, which we all know Mussolini is a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like my theory still stands. Grabs the ladder, goes to the window, kidnaps the kids, makes them go down the ladder, takes the ladder, puts it in the ditch, and then probably, I think, ships them back to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be by plane or boat.
Uh-huh. 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 Dave? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Continue. Continue.
So, Now, I'm assuming by the way you're acting, there's probably going to be some evidence in part two that we'll
Oh
talk
no,
about.
absolutely no evidence to show that they went back to Italy or anything like that.
Yeah. Um,
But this community they lived in, the small area around their house, it was primarily all people of Italian descent that had moved there. There were some rumors of Italian mafia in the area.
okay, then we're talking. Okay, they get shipped to New York.
Well, no, I personally believe they got shipped to Italy,
Yeah.
but there's no evidence of that part. Now, we will get into it next week, but there is evidence that they did get kidnapped, did survive, and at least one of them did live at least to his 20s.
Okay.
I will also say one of the surviving children that we know made it out is still alive. And that's the one that was not present that night.
Interesting.
The one that was overseas fighting in World War II.
Okay.
I was not able to confirm if any others are still alive, but he was. He is still alive.
Well, he would have been a minimum of 18 when he got drafted.
Mm-hmm. If he
Unless,
got drafted, and if he didn't fudge his numbers, you know.
yeah. Because, I mean, there was evidence like 15 and 16-year-olds fudging numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, put him, what, in his 80s, damn near, maybe 90s.
Yep. Yeah, he's up there, but he is alive.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't be too much help to an investigation because, like I said, he was overseas.
Right. Right. And now we're talking, and being so long ago, I mean, the facts will get skewed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm. So,
Hmm.
well, we'll go ahead and end it there. Y'all come back next week for the finale of this when we wrap up this mystery in a nice little bow and tell you exactly what happened
Oh, yeah.
because we're just that good.
That's right. So,
Y'all be
but
sure to like, subscribe, give us 5-star ratings, reviews on Apple and Spotify. Go check out Dave on the TikTok. Go check out Natalie on the Facebook. Y'all don't get to check me out. I'm too sexy.
yeah, that's a paid subscription from what I hear.
It is. It is. That's where you get my feet pics.
Uh,
All right.
all right, y'all. Well, y'all have a good day and everything, and we'll see you again next time.
I'll catch y'all on the next one. Later, brother.
Later.
Fuck with it some other time. So. Having technical difficulties here.
Yeah. Let's see here. That's supposed to be able to do all sorts of neat shit with this something.
I don't understand why we're having so many technical difficulties. Could probably go ahead and introduce everybody back to the Lotsful podcast. It's your co-hosts, Dakota and Arkansas Dave. I'm trying to get an intro made for this episode. Ooh, I like that green.
That's that ring light that I've been using, but I was trying to. I can
That
make it.
green's kind of eerie. I like that.
I
The
don't know if I
blue
can make
watches you out a lot.
it.
Yeah, I like that.
Let's see.
But I'm trying to do an intro here for this, and I don't know if it's going to work. It might not. I might just be retarded.
Oh, my
And
wife's going.
if we're being completely honest, I do not have the energy to do it right now. So
Oh, my wife's gonna kill me.
why is she going to kill you?
I just broke her chair.
I guess that Weight Watchers is in your future.
No, I pushed down trying to position myself, and and this ain't a cheap chair either. It's like an $80 chair.
Y'all are gonna have to bear with me this episode. It's been a week and a half. So, well, how you been, brother?
Oh, I've been. That's about
Not bad.
it. Man, shit. Started getting sick on last Saturday and stayed pretty sick through Wednesday. Started feeling a little better yesterday, and then doing better today.
Yeah.
So
You keep that shit up north with you. While
I'm
you're
gonna
at it,
keep it all.
while you're at it, keep the white shit up there too.
What white shit? I'm
The
getting
white,
fucking ice.
the white bullshit that's supposedly coming this way that Natalie's getting right now.
Yeah, I'm getting fucking ice. And we ain't talking about the U.S. immigration either.
Oh no, we've had those.
So,
And if we're being completely honest, they needed to be here a long ass time ago.
yeah.
So,
But let's get back on the topic of part 2 of Sodder family.
oh, I'm sorry. Am I boring you?
Oh, no, motherfucker, you ain't. Now, your face is kind of boring, though, but it's okay. I understand.
You just that excited to get back to talking about missing children, huh?
It's not that it's the case of the missing children. I just want to know what the fuck happened.
Well, we stopped off last time because somebody had to get to his job. You know,
Hey, bills don't pay
had to be
themselves, sir.
responsible.
Bills don't pay themselves.
Yeah, he had to be responsible. So, where we left off last time was the initial investigation. Didn't really find anything except for the planted heart that the police chief found, or was it the fire chief? I don't fucking remember.
Was it a heart? I thought it was a liver.
Well, it turned out to be a liver, but he tried to pass it off as a heart.
Oh.
It was a beef liver, but he tried to pass it off as a human heart because, he thought people were fucking retarded. I'm trying to find it in my notes here.
But I feel back in those days, people knew their cuts of meats a lot better than they do now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was Fire Chief Morris. He had tried to pass off a beef liver as a human heart. So, but I mean, these are not very well off people. I'm sure they butchered their own cattle and stuff like that. I'm sure they could tell the difference between a beef liver and a human heart.
Yeah.
But we're getting into the 50s and 60s. So after the official investigation stalled, George and Jenny Sodder kept the story alive. In the 1950s, they put up a billboard along Route 16 near the site of their former home, displaying photos of the 5 children and offering a reward for information. This giant roadside billboard with the question, "What was their fate? Kidnapped, murdered, or are they still alive?" became a well-known landmark and remained standing for decades. Initially, the reward was $5,000, but the family later doubled it to $10,000 for any credible lead on the children's whereabouts. The Sodders also printed and distributed flyers and posters about the case nationwide, featuring the children's pictures and puzzling facts in hopes of generating tips. Leads and eyewitness reports began to trickle in from various places, though none could be confirmed. Among the most intriguing accounts, Christmas night 1945, a woman claimed to have seen the 5 children peering from a passing car while the fire was in progress. If true, this suggested they might have been removed from the house before or during the blaze. The morning of December 25th, 1945, a woman who ran a tourist court, which is like a motel, between Fayetteville and Charleston, about 50 miles away, said she served breakfast to several children the morning after the fire, and that there was a car with Florida license plates parked at the tourist court at the time. She believed the children were the Sodder kids and notified police. 1 week after the fire, a woman working at a hotel in Charleston, West Virginia, saw the children's photos in a newspaper and reported that 4 of the 5 had stayed at her hotel around that time with 2 men and 2 women of Italian extraction. She recalled that the entire party arrived late at night and that the adults were hostile, refusing to let her speak with the children. She said the men spoke rapidly in Italian and immediately silenced the group when she attempted friendly interaction. "I sensed I was being frozen out," she reported. The group left early the next morning. This detailed account was given to authorities, but no firm conclusion could be drawn from it.
So Florida license plates. Man, they're going north.
3 separate accounts.
Yeah.
I find the second and third one the most intriguing.
Yeah. I mean, they're heading north, which suggests they're probably going to New York.
Possibly. And what's funny is I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day about this case. And I told him my theory on it, with it being mafia related.
Right.
Damn it, Dave. Tell people to quit calling you when we're recording.
Can't help it, man.
And he said, "So you think maybe the children went to New York?"
Same thing I'm thinking.
Throughout the late 1940s and 50s, George Sodder relentlessly chased down leads at his own expense. If someone reported a sighting or a rumor, whether it was a child in another town resembling one of his or a message relayed through acquaintances, George would drive across the country to investigate. For instance, the family received a letter from a woman in St. Louis claiming her daughter Martha was in a convent there. Another tip came from Texas, where someone at a bar overheard an ominous conversation about a long-ago Christmas Eve fire in West Virginia. There was even a claim that the children were living with a distant relative of Jenny's in Florida. George tracked down each rumor and story, yet sadly every trip led to a dead end. He always came home without children or answers.
And sadly, a lot of tips like that tend to fizzle out because people are just wanting the money.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Sadly, like, you have to offer this money to entice people to come forward if they have information. But this money also brings out people that just want the publicity, or they just want the money, and they will make up any fucking thing they can to try to get it. I mean, we see that even today. Like, look at all these fucking clout chasers around the world. I mean, hell, we're chasing clout, but we're fucking chasing our own clout, you know?
Right. I
Like,
mean, do what you can do.
exactly. In 1967, more than 20 years after the fire, a new piece of evidence stunned the Sodder family. Jenny Sodder received an envelope in the mail postmarked from Kentucky with no return address. Inside was a photograph of a young man in his mid-20s. On the back of the photo was a handwritten message. Lewis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. ILIL boys. A90132 or 35. The Sodders were astonished at the resemblance. The man in the photo had the dark, curly brown hair, brown eyes, straight, strong nose, and an upward tilt to his left eyebrow, just like their son Lewis, who was 9 at the time of the fire. It genuinely looked how Lewis might appear as a grown man. The cryptic note on the back only deepened the mystery. The Sodders once again hired a private detective, this time to travel to Kentucky and investigate this lead. In a frustrating turn of events, that detective never reported back to the Sodders. He vanished, and his findings, if any, were never communicated to the family. Fearing for the safety of their possibly surviving son, George and Jenny did not publicize the contents of the letter or the exact postmark at the time. However, they did update the famous billboard to include the new photo of Lewis alongside the aging portraits of their other missing children.
So that sounds like either A, private detective did go out there and got whacked,
That's my theory. He got Hillary Clinton.
or B, he got paid off and disappeared.
Which is also likely,
Yeah.
especially if you're dealing with mafia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the mafia ain't always going to whack you for whatever reason, but
They're
they,
going to do. They're going to either disappear you or they're going to pay you off.
yeah.
One
And
or
I
the
think,
other.
and I think they try the easier method first before they
Yeah,
whack you.
yeah, that's true.
Because I mean, you got to think about it. If you whack him, that brings more heat. It brings eyes.
Yeah,
If you just pay somebody off, they just kind of go back on their merry way. So
yeah.
that's what I do.
I mean, if I had the money, yeah.
If you're mafia, you got the money.
I mean, they can pay me off. I don't know what they'd be paying me off for, but they can pay me off. Like,
Yeah. Well, like I
I
might
am
have
not
some
too
information
proud.
on, huh?
I am not too proud to say I am not for sale.
That's right. It might do a few strange things for a piece of change.
If the price is right, my silence can be bought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
My wife, I'll tell you funny real quick. My wife the other night, she's like, "Baby, I got a question." She's like, "Okay." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Would you hit me for $1,000,000?"
she
Sat there, I
didn't
thought
say
about it
how
for a
hard,
second.
just tap her on the shoulder. Boom. You're $1,000,000 richer.
Exactly. If it meant that I had to knock her out, I might still do it.
I mean, $1,000,000 would pay for the hospital bills and bail money.
That's what I told her. She's like, "Would you do it for any less?" Maybe 500,000. Maybe.
Cover the hospital bills and bail money, and we'll talk.
Right.
uh, by the late 1960s, the Sodder parents were aging, and the lack of closure weighed heavily on them. In 1968, George Sodder told the Associated Press, "It's like hitting a brick or hitting a rock wall. We can't go any further. We just don't know what to do now." Yet he remained steadfast in hoping for a break in the case. George Sodder died in 1969 at age 73, still
Mm.
believing his children might be out there. Jenny Sodder lived until 1989, always dressed in black in perpetual mourning, and maintained the billboard and her hope until her death. Only after Jenny's passing was the weathered billboard finally taken down. The Sodder's surviving children continued to investigate and keep the story alive in the ensuing years. Their last living child, Sylvia Sodder, who was only 3 at the time of the fire, grew up hearing the theories and joined her older siblings in maintaining that the 5 missing children likely survived. Sylvia, who passed away in 2021 at age 79, never believed her siblings died in the fire and remained determined to figure out what really happened. Now that's interesting because I found information saying that another one of the children, the one that wasn't there that night, is also still alive.
Yeah.
But that could be wrong. Over the decades, the Sodder case became one of America's most enduring unsolved mysteries, often featured in articles, books, and discussions of unexplained disappearances. The family's persistence meant that new generations heard the story, and tips or memories would occasionally surface, though none have definitively solved the case. As Sylvia's daughter, Jenny Sodder's granddaughter, put it in a 2022 interview, it is unlikely the family will ever get closure. By now, anybody who knew what happened would have been my grandparents' age. And if the missing children themselves were alive, they would be in their 80s or 90s and could have contacted the family if they wished. The mystery, it seems, may endure indefinitely.
Damn.
Okay.
So, well, here's my question. The kids are still looking, but what about their kids?
Well, that's what it says. Sylvia, so I had found information that another one was still alive, but
Yeah, the one that was
this,
military.
yeah, this that I wrote down is saying that Sylvia was the only one, and I must have fucking blanked out when I was typing it out. Otherwise, I would have caught it and done more digging into it.
Right.
Um, but it says she died in 2021, and her children are still hopeful and still kind of looking, but they're also like, yeah, you know, the odds of it being solved now.
Yeah, next to impossible.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Like they're still looking, but they're not looking super hard. You know what I mean?
well, here's the funny. You could do a DNA test.
Yeah.
It is possible that they had kids.
Yeah. But who are you going to DNA test?
DNA test yourself.
Okay.
Ancestry.
So,
So
yeah.
do
So
a 23andMe.
that shows you yours, but if you're trying to find somebody, you would have to have their DNA also. But for that to happen, they would have to know somebody that they suspect might be one of the children or a descendant of one of the children. You know what I
Well,
mean?
right. So with like Ancestry, you've never done it, I don't think.
I have. I've used
Okay.
Ancestry. I've never done the DNA part, but
Oh,
I've used Ancestry.
okay. I've done the DNA part.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a swab, send it in, blah blah blah. And then what it's going to do, it's going to match you to everybody in their database that is given permission to make their DNA public. Okay?
Yeah.
And then it's going to give you CMs. Okay? And those
Mm-hmm.
CMs, the higher the CM, the closer that person is in being a relative. Whether it's
Yeah.
half sister, uncle, cousin, first cousin, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever, so on down the line. So, say if their aunt and uncle have kids, they're going to pop as a first cousin.
Yeah. I'm smelling what you're stepping in right now.
And if you do it across multiple ancestry sites, the
Mm-hmm.
possibility of hitting one is quite great. You
Right.
just have,
Right.
you just have to figure out when you do it, and you got to pay attention. What side is parent one? What side is parent two?
Now, I've got two thoughts on that. One is a funny and one is a legitimate statement. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
One, the legitimate statement, I have an issue with that because they store your DNA and the government has access to it and stuff like that. You know me, I don't trust the government.
Well, actually, well, yes, technically the government does have access to it, but they still have to pay for it.
That's
You can make,
been proven in court.
yeah,
So
but you can make your DNA private.
yeah. Well, you can now.
So
It wasn't always like that.
yeah,
They did a lot of shady shit. Two, the funny. I'd be scared, especially in certain states, to DNA test myself and my wife.
oh,
Not mentioning those states, Alabama.
Alabama, Virginia, Kentucky. Oh, sorry.
West Virginia, where this is.
Yeah.
So, just a thought. I'd be very scared. So, do you have a theory?
My theory is
Okay.
this is how this
Well,
went down.
hold off. Don't say it yet. Because I've got some theories right here with some evidence and stuff like that, for and against, and it might change your opinion. But do you currently have a theory
Yeah, I do.
that you feel strongly about?
Yeah.
Okay. Several theories have been proposed over the years to explain the Sodder children's disappearance. The main theories include, and this is theory number one, all right? They perished in the fire, which is the official story. Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is the most likely.
Right.
And the simplest explanation is that the 5 children did in fact die in the house fire, and that the lack of remains was due to the fire's intensity and the subsequent disturbance of the site. Some fire experts note that certain conditions, like the presence of combustible materials or the bulldozing and soil covering creating an oven effect, could conceivably destroy bones. It's also suggested that the fire actually burned for many hours into the morning, not merely 45 minutes, which could have allowed more complete incineration. However, this theory struggles to explain the total absence of skeletal remains, especially given modern knowledge that typical house fires do not completely cremate bodies.
Right.
Okay. Theory number 2, abduction and arson. The Sodder family's favorite theory was that their children were kidnapped by an enemy or criminal group, and that the fire was deliberately set as a diversion to cover the abduction. A commonly cited motive is retaliation or revenge by the Sicilian mafia or Mussolini sympathizers, given George's outspoken anti-fascist views. The threatening remarks from the insurance salesman and the stranger's warning about the fuse box lend some credence to the premeditated plot. In this scenario, it's believed that someone took the children out of the house, possibly luring them outside or carrying them out, then set the house on fire using something like an incendiary pineapple bomb thrown onto the roof, which correlates with Jenny hearing a loud thud. The cut phone line, stolen ladder, and disabled trucks are all seen as sabotage to impede rescue or communication. Proponents of this theory point to the multiple sightings of the children with unfamiliar adults as evidence that the children may have been alive and taken elsewhere. Some have speculated that the children could have been taken back to Italy or to live with distant relatives, or even sold into adoption or trafficking. The mafia retaliation theory posits the children might have been harmed shortly after to punish George, but another version suggests they were raised in hiding. Notably, George's eldest sons later theorized that the kidnappers may have intended to take all the children, but in the chaos only succeeded in taking 5. John Sodder said the kidnappers might have been trying to take us all. My brother-in-law barely got out. Okay. You following along?
My brother and I barely got out.
Yeah. So they only got out because George went and woke them up.
Yeah. But here's my problem, real quick. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they were carried out the front door or the back door.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, I just don't. That don't make sense to me. You're going to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to hear a bunch of
100%.
them footsteps. Thump, 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 thump.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Completely agree. Theory 3, organized crime or child trafficking. A variant of the abduction theory doesn't focus on George's politics, but rather on a criminal opportunistic move. Perhaps an illegal adoption racket or child trafficking ring targeted the Sodder children. The large Sodder family and the chaos of the fire could have been an opportunity for abductors. This is more speculative, but the Sodders did consider the possibility of a human trafficking scheme. However, no direct evidence of such a ring was ever found in connection with the case. Okay. Theory 4, inside plot. Over the years, a few have wondered if either George or Jenny or one of the older kids could have orchestrated an insurance scam or some plot that went awry. There is no evidence supporting this, and given the Sodders' subsequent behavior, spending their life savings trying to find the children, such a theory is generally dismissed. The family's genuine desperation for answers strongly indicates that they were not involved in the children's disappearance.
yeah, I don't think that one's going to be holding light to this.
Throughout all these theories lies the central question: did the 5 Sodder children die in the fire, or did they survive it? The family firmly believed the latter, while officialdom leaned toward the former. Modern re-examinations, including a 2018 episode of History's Greatest Mysteries, still present both possibilities, leaving the Sodder case open to interpretation. So we've
I
got one
think
more section, but before we get to that, let's hear your theory of the events of that night, of Christmas Eve. Start at the beginning and walk through exactly what you think happened.
so. Here's my thought process. I'm going to go with the Sicilian Mafia and or Italian Mafia. Fucking
Mussolini sympathizers.
yeah, mostly this with us. That's the way I'm leaning. With the insurance guy, the other guy with the breaker, the truck's being disabled,
Mm-hmm.
the phone line fucking cut, and the ladder. What I think happened is all 5 kids were woken up and then told to go down the ladder through the window. That's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then you take the ladder, you ditch it, you throw the pineapple bomb on the roof, starts the fire. Okay. Now if the
Mm-hmm.
trucks and everything else cut, you can't run anywhere. You can't call anybody, which is going to
Mm-hmm.
give them time to get away.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely, they had a vehicle stashed somewhere close, but not too close, so that the Sodders would hear the vehicle start up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then you got the sightings of the kids. I think were
Mm-hmm.
probably very plausible. The Kentucky guy, I think there may have been something to that and everything. Him not returning, there's a few theories on that. One, he could have died of natural causes going out there. Um, to the fact, depending on his age. 2, he got paid off, or 3, he got whacked. Which one, I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. You would have to look into the family and everything to kind of figure that out. And or he could have just been a shady asshole that just wanted money and then took it and left. Who knows? I think the Sodder kids survived. I think they went to New York, and then from New York they got split up.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
So what's your theory?
So my theory, okay, we're going to start at the beginning. I do not buy that the prank phone call was just a prank or a misdial. I don't buy it. Had that been the only thing that happened that night, maybe. Maybe it was just a prank, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But how many coincidences does it take before you start to think there's something going on?
Okay.
And what are the odds that somebody prank calls the family that night, given everything else that happened that night?
I don't know. Odds probably pretty low.
Slim to none.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's a hell of a coincidence.
Right.
So my theory is trying to think of the best way to lay it out for you. All right. My theory is they planned this out, they plotted it. This was an assassination.
Okay.
That's all it was. I think they had somebody call to make sure the family was home. When somebody answered, okay, there's your answer, you know?
Okay.
They headed over there. I do not think that what they heard on the roof was an incendiary device. My theory is somebody got over there, and at some point, this is the part that I have a hard time figuring out in my head. At some point, it changed from just an assassination plot to a kidnapping.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they planned to take all the children to send a message to George
Okay.
and kind of bully him into shutting the fuck up.
Okay.
I think they used the ladder to climb up to the roof, and they were taking the children out that way, forcing them out. I don't think the children went willingly.
No.
And I think at some point something happened. My theory is a child slipped or something, and that's what Jenny heard. And they knew it caused a lot of noise, so they abandoned their plan to take all the children and stopped with what they had, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then they lit the fire close to the fuse box, probably using the wires to short circuit and cause a spark next to an accelerant,
Mm-hmm.
like gasoline.
Okay.
Okay. To make it look like an accident. I think they loaded the children up into a vehicle, took off while somebody stayed behind. Probably that guy. Oh, what was his name? The guy that they caught later. Lonnie Johnson. I think he was involved. Um, you know, for legal reasons, this is just a theory. It's not indicting anybody. I do think Lonnie Johnson was involved, though. I think he was meant to stay back to sabotage the phone lines, hide the ladder, and disable the trucks. That way, the family would be too preoccupied at the
Yes.
moment to realize their children were gone until
Right.
they got far enough away. I think he got spotted, and I think the whole, I was stealing a block and tackle was an alibi. Okay.
Okay.
Because again, and the reason for thinking all that about Lonnie Johnson goes back to the same reason I don't think the phone call was a coincidence.
Right.
The odds of all of that happening on the same night, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the children were sold into an adoption, a black market adoption thing.
Okay.
I don't see anything that would lead me to believe human trafficking. Some of them may have been sent back to Italy, some might not have. I don't think all of them were kept in the same place, though.
I don't think
I
they
think they were
were.
split up in some different directions.
I don't think they were necessarily sent back to Italy. I think they were just split up among the U.S.
Yeah,
Everything, and that's what I think.
I'm not ruling out that some of them. Yeah, I'm not ruling out that some of them could have gone back to Italy, but I don't think all 5 children were sent to the same place.
Well, we're talking post World War II, the early years before,
Yeah.
or early years afterwards. So the rebuilding of Italy, Europe, absolutely
Mm-hmm.
insane. So I mean, they could have went back, but I don't think they did. Um,
I mean, the fact that it's during the Reconstruction period after World War II leads credibility to me thinking they might have gone back to Italy because it'd be a lot easier for you to hide somebody in all that chaos.
that is true, and I agree with you on that. But the problem is, you're also going to have to get documents, which
Yeah,
not that hard to do back then.
possibly.
Um,
You could say, oh, we were in a rural family and all of our documents got lost because our house got bombed or whatever.
yeah. So, but it's the documents from America to Italy, not.
Maybe, unless you just don't mention that unless you smuggle them into Italy and then don't mention that they came from America.
Yeah,
It
which
was a
means
lot easier to smuggle back then.
which means you're probably going to have to go by ship, and you're not going by plane.
Yeah, and again, the chaos would help with the smuggling.
Yeah.
Now, all that being said, I don't think they went back to Italy.
No.
I agree with you. I think they were split up amongst the U.S. I'm just not ruling out Italy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think that um, the DNA test needs to be done if it hasn't already. I think
Mm-hmm.
that would,
I think that's a wonderful idea.
yeah, I think that would give some credibility to try to find, and you might want to find them one or two that away, especially if they had
Mm-hmm.
kids. There's not how
Yep.
many girls were taken.
I think 2. I'd have to go back and look. Let me see here.
So you got two. There's 2 girls taken. I mean, and Italians are known to have big families.
3. 3 girls were taken: Martha, Jenny, and Betty, and
Okay.
then 2 boys: Maurice and Louis.
Uh huh. So the girls, let's, for shits and giggles, so they had 5 kids apiece, which
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be uncommon. That's 15 kids
No.
for 3 girls.
Mm-hmm.
It's 15 kids for 3. We're not
I
counting the
agree.
boys.
Yep, I agree. I'm following you. Yep.
Now, if the boys had kids, well, that could be another 10.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody somewhere second or third cousin you can trace back possibly to this group.
Yeah.
But
Now, my thought process as to why they were split up, I tried to put myself into the mindset of somebody that was involved in the kidnapping. Um, if I were to do that, not saying I would, because I wouldn't, that's fucking horrible.
yeah,
I would split them up, because let's say George keeps searching and he finds one.
yeah,
Cool. You found one. Now you got to find the other 4. You're
yeah.
still missing kids, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you keep them all together and he finds one, he finds all of them.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't let the kids talk to
So,
each other once they split, they're not going to know where they're at.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
So,
But it sounds like we're in agreement that it was a kidnapping.
yeah. I think it's kidnapping / assassination attempt, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, despite decades of investigation, several unanswered questions and puzzling details remain. And this is the last section, okay?
Yeah.
Why were no human remains found? In a typical house fire of less than an hour, it is expected that skeletal remains would be found for each victim. The Sodder fire yielded no identifiable bones or teeth in the immediate search. Later, only a few bone fragments from a person older than any of the missing children were recovered. This is highly unusual and has never been fully explained to the family's satisfaction. Was the fire truly hot enough and long enough to cremate 5 bodies, or were the children's bodies simply not there in the ashes?
Yeah.
Okay. What caused the loud thud on the roof? Jenny's account of something hitting the roof at 1 a.m. suggests a possible incendiary device or bomb thrown onto the house. Indeed, the family found a charred rubber object in the yard that George believed was an explosive pineapple bomb like those used in World War II. If an arsonist attacked the house, this could be the ignition source of the blaze. However, no official investigation ever confirmed the object's nature through forensic analysis at the time. Who cut the phone line and why? The discovery that the telephone line was cut 14 feet up the pole indicates deliberate sabotage. The man who admitted to it, Lonnie Johnson, gave a dubious explanation that he thought it was a power line and wanted to shut off power and facilitate a theft. Cutting a phone line to steal a block and tackle makes little sense, and it's never been clear if Johnson was telling the whole truth or if he was part of a larger plot. His true motives remain murky, and police records of his interrogation are lacking. Why were the Sodders' ladder and trucks disabled? The ladder's removal and simultaneous failure of both trucks strongly suggest pre-planning by persons unknown. If someone intended to trap the family in the fire, hiding the ladder and tampering with the vehicles would be logical steps. However, no culprit was ever identified for these acts. The ladder was simply found and returned, and the trucks eventually started normally later, indicating perhaps an intentional flooding of the engines or other minor sabotage. The question of who did this and when, likely while the family was asleep, is unanswered. What about the sightings of the children? Multiple independent witnesses claim to have seen the Sodder children in the hours, days, and even weeks after the fire, in a car, at a tourist stop, and at a hotel. If these accounts were accurate, it means the children were removed from the fire and taken on a journey. Yet, despite these leads, no trace of the children were ever found in those locations. Were these cases of mistaken identity, or were the children moved frequently and hidden by their captors? The truth behind these sightings is still unknown. Who sent the 1967 photograph, and was it really Lewis? The anonymous letter from Kentucky with a photo of a young man resembling Lewis Sodder raised huge questions. The cryptic note, "I love brother Frankie," and other odd phrases has never been decoded.
The family's attempt to investigate led nowhere when their PI vanished. To this day, it is not confirmed if the man in the photo was indeed Louis Sodder or someone playing a cruel trick. The origin of that letter remains one of the Sodder case's most tantalizing loose ends. If the children survived, why did they never contact the family? This heartbreaking question haunts the Sodder story. If the 5 children grew up elsewhere under new identities or in hiding, one might expect that in adulthood at least one of them would recall or discover their past and seek out their siblings or parents. Yet no known contact was ever made. Some family members theorized that perhaps the children did eventually know and kept silent to protect their parents from harm, or perhaps they were raised not knowing their true identities and thus never realized who they were. Without any of the 5 individuals to speak for themselves, this question lingers as the most profound mystery of all. In the end, the Sodder family's mystery endures as an unsettling combination of tragedy and uncertainty. The events of that Christmas Eve and the bizarre sequence of obstacles that night suggest that foul play was likely involved. Yet all official efforts to find the children or culprits failed. The case remains officially unsolved, a cold case that has haunted Fayetteville, West Virginia for over 80 years. The Sodder siblings and their descendants have kept the story alive so that the lost children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, will not be forgotten. What truly happened in the early hours of December 25th, 1945, under the cover of fire, is a question that continues to provoke speculation and sorrow. And as of this day, it remains one of American history's most infamous unsolved mysteries.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the story of the Sodder family mystery.
Well.
Oh, come on. I don't even get a handy clap for that one.
Good job. Even give me a couple coughs at the end.
Yeah. I think that was
You
a
did
very
good.
detailed report.
I do agree. I do agree, buddy. I think for many
I
more
spent 2
years.
weeks on that bitch.
Damn. I think for many more years it's gonna sorry. For many more years they'll probably look into it, but it's gonna fizzle out and just become legend. And everything.
I don't think it's ever going to be solved.
No. No. The likelihood of it being solved now is like probably 1 in a million. You got better chances winning the lottery.
It's the same situation as I said with Hopkinsville. Uh, it's been so many years since the event that the odds of it being solved now are just so minuscule.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. I do agree. But, like they say, squirrel gets a nut every once in a while. Which means he gets lucky.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, that's right. Weirder shit has happened.
So, well, I hope y'all enjoy that. Dave, I'm gonna pose you a thought, and I want people watching this to chime in on their opinion too. I vote we take the hiatus over the next 2 weeks. That'll allow us time to get a back catalog recorded and ready to go. Like, we'll still be recording over the next 2 weeks, but just to kind of get ahead, you know? And in the meantime, to keep you folks entertained, because that's all we are to you as dancing monkeys, I think I'll stitch together part 1 and part 2 of Hopkinsville and part 1 and part 2 of Sodder Family and upload those as mega episodes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with that. So,
Okay.
I mean,
If y'all are cool with that, let us know. Or if you're not cool with it, let us know.
if I hold power this weekend, maybe we'll throw a few episodes together. Start getting that back catalog started.
Yep. That's my thought.
So,
That'll give us 2 weeks to record. So.
yeah. All right,
Well, Dave, close us out, you beautiful son of a bitch.
you beautiful motherfuckers. Listen, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Like, follow, subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Go follow Natalie over on the Facebook page. One of these days we'll have a Twitter, maybe, and an Instagram. Who knows? We're just trying here, okay? We're trying to make some money. Who knows? We might get there one of these days. But till next time, y'all.
We're just two autistic retards trying to make a podcast.
That's right. We're on the spectrum. Man, we really are.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, y'all have a good night. Y'all stay safe with all this winter weather out there. If you're in the south or on the east coast, up north, wherever you're at. So y'all be safe and have a good one.
All right. Later, brother.
Later.